All right. We'll wait a moment to see people kind of trickle in. And we'll we'll
There we go.
there we go.
All right. I vote you go.
Excellent. Great. Well, welcome everybody. Very excited to kick off this exciting webinar. This webinar, if you are not aware, is dedicated to our Teacher Ambassador Program, specifically this year, 2022-2023. As a reminder, we are recording this webinar. So for those that registered, so everyone here, you will receive a link to the recording afterwards. So feel free to share that link and, watch it, over and over again if you'd like. As a reminder, we always encourage you guys to connect with us. We love communication. We love being tagged. We are on all social platforms, as you can see at the bottom of the slide. So feel free to tag us, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, of course. If you have any questions along the way, you guys can always email us directly at info@ubtecheducation.com. And of course, if you haven't already, please visit our website, UBTech Education. If this is your first webinar, which it's probably not, because this is the last one of this calendar school year. So we'll touch on that, later on in the webinar, but we're actually going to reconvene in the early fall. But if you're new to the webinars, my name is Rusty and I am acting as the Education Product Manager for UBTech Education. You can see my email on the screen. If you have any training or product-centric questions, or any questions at all for that matter, I love, getting emails from you guys. And I always strongly encourage you guys to also connect with me on LinkedIn. I try to share out any updates from our company. So please connect with me. There's my handle at the bottom of the screen.
And then my name is Christina Davis, jack of all trades here at UBTech. Also email, Twitter, and LinkedIn are on there. So feel free if you have any curriculum questions, sales, anything else you'd like to know. One of the two of us can answer most, if not all, questions. So reach out, tag us, follow us. We love to see what you guys are doing. All right, so a little intro into our agenda today. I'm going to tell you a little bit about UBTech Education, and then Rusty's going to introduce you to our Teacher Ambassador Program, which is what this webinar is all about. And then you will see we have 4 lovely ladies here right now. Brian will be joining us shortly, but they are going to be sharing about what they're doing in their classroom with UKITs and what their students have been working on. So they will each have a chance to share. We do encourage that you ask questions during their presentation. We're not planning a big Q&A at the end if we can avoid that. We'd like to ask questions as we go. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the question and answer section. You can type them in the chat, whatever works for you guys. But yeah, so feel free, ask questions, find out what these ladies are doing in the classroom. And then we'll do Q&A a little bit, whatever's left at the end.
Great.
All right, so if you are joining us for the first time or don't know who we are UBTech Education, and we really just want to make sure students have hands-on STEM experiences with robotics, building those computational literacy, if I can talk, and 21st century skills. So just getting students ready for the real world, right, after the classroom is what our goal is.
And to jump in and share a little bit about our specific program, we will introduce our ambassadors in a moment, but to highlight why we created this program, we really wanted to create a teacher ambassador program to kind of connect a lot of our teachers that are utilizing the UKITs and the different UBTech products in the classroom, so we can share ideas and learn about how educators are actually benefiting from utilizing the UKITs. This is our second year that we've actually been coordinating with educators all around the country. And a couple of the main criteria that we put forth for these educators, one is that we try to bring in educators, of course, that are utilizing the UKITs. That's kind of a no-brainer there. Once they're utilizing the UKITs, we utilize them to also come up with different curriculum ideas, lessons. They generally, go through the process of creating their own lessons. They also are enlisted to supply feedback on all of our curriculum, engage with us, engage with each other. And finally, we actually have had quite a bit of success with our ambassadors presenting at different conferences, helping to do promotion for us on social media, etc. So we've loved working with our ambassadors. They are all very awesome, and we hope to continue to engage with them, in the future. So for this calendar year, we have enlisted 8 different ambassadors around the country. Today, we are actually going to hear from 5. 5 of our favorites, I gotta say. No, they're all our favorites for sure. But so we have them, if you can see, all across the country, all across different grade levels as well, utilizing different products for different students. So without further ado, from here on out, I'm going to kind of kick it over to the ambassadors. Each ambassador is going to do a short presentation. As Christina mentioned, if you guys have questions, please drop them into the chat. We'll try to answer them, along the way. And yeah, let's go ahead and kick it over to EC.
Hi, everyone. My name is EC Setzer. I know there's 2 of us in the chat. We shared a link, but I'm the real EC Setzer. And I teach 4th and 5th grade gifted students in Charleston, South Carolina. And this is my 28th year of teaching. And these UKITs really gave me a whole new life, a whole new direction and inspiration and excitement. And I'm hoping that you will look into some of these as well. We use the beginner kit and the advanced kits in my class, because with my 4th graders, I'm typically using the beginner kits, and with my 5th graders, the advanced. And I teach 100 different kids that come to me throughout the week. So we try to share the kits, which has been quite a challenge, but it's actually promoted a lot of problem solving and collaboration. And it's interesting trying to get kids to collaborate with kids they don't see. So kids will start a build, leave notes, the next class will come in and finish the build. So it's been really interesting to have that happen. So I strongly suggest trying it in your classroom. I love the problem solving, the collaboration, and just getting you excited about learning again, making things interesting again. And some of my favorite, oops, it clicked on my whole implementation plan. Some of my favorite lessons that we've done, the first one you saw there, the kids decorated the robot into it was a candy grabber for Halloween, so that they could get more candy than just 1 or 2 pieces. We were just trying to be a little funny. And we also had some candy catapults so that people sitting on the porch didn't have to get up. They could just throw the candy down to the kids. And it was really fun. So the kids had a target they tried to hit, and they really loved it. And they got into, this was the first time I really tried decorating the robots. They really got into the art side of it. It gave it a whole new dimension, which was exciting. We also love doing Olympic games. It was Winter Olympics last year, and the kids got to pick whichever Winter Olympic sport they wanted to try. These 2 on the left here are doing ice skating or figure skating, and they had a wonderful time. It had to have a certain number of elements to it. And we also had one that did hockey, one that did curling, which was pretty interesting, and one that tried to do skiing, but it didn't work out too well. He needed a little more time. And some more favorites on the next slide. May the 4th, which is coming up, if all you Star Wars fans know, in the next couple of weeks. On May the 4th, we do a May the 4th challenge. I was just talking to fellow ambassadors and Rusty and Christina that I would like to have the robots holding a straw-made lightsaber with a push pin in the end, and they're trying to joust and pop a balloon and save Baby Yoda inside. Previously, we've made vehicles and they had to hide Baby Yoda and drive him into the Millennium Falcon and around. You can see I've got all kinds of Star Wars people in my classroom, so they'd have to go around a stormtrooper and those kind of things. So giving the kids a fun way to learn, and they keep trying and working hard and problem solving when it's a fun background. When you just make the scene, you set the stage, they will rise to the occasion. And once you say robots, you've got their attention. So it gets just more exciting from there. The ones on the left were all our holiday projects. We had robots that decorated trees for us, robots that put the lights on the trees, which was interesting because they had to do loops as they moved around the tree, and they had to design a piece of the robot that could actually shove the lights into the tree. So that was interesting as well. These are some of my favorites. And some more on the next slide. This was a Rube Goldberg project, which I'm sure a lot of you have done. It's a good tried and true project, but I was getting a little bored with it. So I told the kids they needed to incorporate the UB Tech robots somehow, and they did. And Thor's hammer knocked over the stormtrooper. So that made it a little more exciting when they had to add a different element. So I really liked that. And another project is, let's see. Sorry, I'm not driving. This was my favorite project that we've done. This is with another UB Tech ambassador on one of our monthly meetings. Mr. Kenny Bay mentioned that he is doing a program called iFly, where they're trying to get more females into STEM and gender expansive youth. And I said, you know what? I think my fourth graders could try that. Well, it became such a collaboration. The fifth graders helped the fourth graders. We had a little bit of consulting from some high school kids nearby, and we successfully built a Baby Yoda, their design. The robot is actually inside that styrofoam capsule, and we mailed it to Kenny Bay in Chicago. He took it to an iFly facility, which we don't have those in South Carolina, so the kids were just in awe. And Baby Yoda was trying to fly up and down using the wings, which were his ears, to go up and down. So the kids were very excited. I told them today that Mr. Bay presented their picture at the NSTA conference a few weeks ago, and that they're now celebrities, and they were super excited about that. So it was really an interesting program, and the parents were just blown away that the kids are making a flying robot. And next slide, I think, is my last one. Biggest takeaways: you don't have to be an expert. Don't freak out. The first time I thought, I've got to be able to build this perfectly before I tell the kids they build that. Nope. Kids are way better at it than I am. Let them be the expert. Let them lead you. Let them show you what they're good at. They love that. It gives them such confidence. They also have to collaborate with each other. And I don't know about your kids, but my kids after 2020 are getting a little selfish. They don't have a lot of perseverance, and the robots are bringing that all back for them because they have to work together. They can't do it alone. Like you saw the robots earlier that had the decorated elements. Every kid has a gift. Every kid has a strength. And when you incorporate all of those into these projects, it just comes through in a beautiful way. Also helps kids find their voice. I've worked with a lot of special ed kids that we've paired with the gifted kids, and the special ed kids will start talking and doing things and coding in ways that we'd never even thought of before. And then they start teaching the gifted kids how to do it. So it's pretty amazing. I have one kid who's had problems in every single class he's been in this year. He became my expert in the Baby Yoda project and the flying Yoda. And Bodhi is now flying in everything because he found his voice with that. He was master of the build and master of the code, and everybody came to him as the expert when before he was kind of the class clown. So that was exciting. Also teaches them failing forward. You know, you fail a little, you're going to get better, you're going to learn from it. And then this last one, the picture there is a Pi Day challenge. They had to build the golf club build, which is super easy. If you're nervous about a build, that one is a great one. And they just had to hit a ball 3.14 meters. So the kids got really into it and found ways to slow the ball down, found ways to, it incorporated so much problem solving I didn't even think about. So much more math, so much more science. And you can't go wrong with these. There's all kinds of exciting things to do. And feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram, or email Rusty and Christina, and they can get you in touch. But you definitely should use these in your classroom. Thanks.
Thanks, Cece. And also to promote EC a little bit, she's also featured in our beginner classes on our training portal. So if you want to also see, see her kind of lead you through how to get started with the UKIT beginner, she is our featured teacher on that course. So thanks, EC. You've been awesome. We appreciate all your insight. And of course, all the Star Wars stuff it speaks to me personally. Great. Excellent. So next, moving kind of across the country to Annie Schmidt. Annie.
Thanks, Rusty. EC, every time I see your stuff, I get so many more ideas. So that's one of the really nice things about the TAP program, just seeing those ideas and then getting to implement them. So my name is Annie Schmidt. I am a computer science teacher and teaching artist located in Erie, Pennsylvania on the lake. I was a teaching artist starting in 2012. So I'm on a Pennsylvania state roster. And what that means is I travel to different schools and push in during the school day, partnered with teachers, also after school, summer, and those extracurricular type programs. In 2020, I got my computer science teacher certification, and I taught in the classroom for a couple years, 7th and 8th grade STEM and robotics, and then high school computer science. And now I'm kind of back on the independent educator track, going back out to offer programs to schools where they have gaps basically with the STEM and arts and technology integrations, because that's what I really love to do. So I have used the intermediate kit for my middle school 4th through 8th grade students in after school programs. And then this year I got curious about the advanced kit and started diving into that. And we made a custom class for some of my high school students. They're actually Pennsylvania cyber students, but they get to do one program in person each week. So we made this Imagineering class that is actually listed as an art class, but they wanted to try robotics. So I'm really like pulling kids in who weren't necessarily interested in the STEM part to begin with, but now they're kind of getting hooked and seeing how they can use robotics to do things that are creative or use coding to integrate with their art. My approach for the couple years with the TAP program has really, especially this year, I've focused on just how can we use those robots as a creative tool. In some of the pictures here, we've been doing kind of robots as carnival games with my middle school and high schoolers this year. So we just started doing like a claw machine, and we have little rubber ducks now that we are working on next week. So that's that first picture of the claw. We did a spinner wheel that has a random time with it. We are also working on a catapult game with a target. So really just finding like an interesting theme. And then like EC said as well, just having that art component or that creative component to add on that really lets every single student fully participate. For example, with my high school group this year, I have 9th through 12th grade. I have some autistic support students that their academic level is even lower than that. And then that's along with high school seniors. So if they're working together on a project, I really like to have those creative components added in. So they're building, they're coding, but they're coming up with their own ideas, they're testing, they're refining and going through that design process. So the collaboration has been really, really nice with these. One of my favorites that we've been working on this year, this is with my high school Imagineers class. These are students who are looking to go to college for fine arts, and they hadn't really done a whole lot with coding, or they might have had an experience where it just didn't hook them previously, whatever that experience might have been. So we took these, I think this is the line following robot. It's just a really small 2-wheeled car robot that's can move really easily, and especially in circle patterns. And we also got out the old school spirograph this week so they could see what that was, to think about that geometry and how can we get the robots to draw interesting patterns. And then we took that one step further. After the robots made things, and a lot of them we were kind of like, well, that's not what we meant it to do, but it still turned out looking really cool. So the students actually wanted to go ahead and draw and paint on top of that to kind of make this robot human art collaboration. So we're still in the middle of that. I don't have finished pieces yet, but we do have an art show coming up. So we'll have the robots drawing on display and then the actual finished art pieces as well. Some lessons learned overall, like I've been mentioning, I try to make it a really wide open kind of entry points where there's different places for students to get that hook and get that engagement, to work on the problem solving, collaboration, critical thinking, all of those 21st century skills. For the intermediate and beginner kit, I really like the UCode app and how you can differentiate with the coding particularly. The screenshot here is for the pose, record, play function, which lets the students like move the robots like a puppet and then take a snapshot of that and then pose it again. And that has worked really well when I have students who are ready for block code, they can work on that. But if you have students at the same time who are not, they can do the pose, record, play and still code their robot and be all in one app and doing the same project. And then finally, for this slide, it doesn't matter, Rusty, but we just do the engineering design process with all of our projects, no matter what age group I'm with. The language we use is a little bit different, but we really talk about that failing forward and, everything that you try, you learn something from, and it's more about the process than that end product. All right. So these are still from the arts and engineering class, building the claw, and the middle picture, that is two students who work together to build a car and then a gate that will open and close. We're trying to do like the Rube Goldberg of robots, have 2 or 3 or 4 robots who can interact with each other. And that's the challenge they're working on now. I mentioned explore, then explain here. That's kind of my shorthand for constructivist education, thinking about how can the students try it first or use their own observations first before I tell them what it is. So we do that both with the robot pieces and the sensors when we first introduce the kits. I kind of let them say, well, what do you think it is before I tell them what it is? And we also do that with coding, that I'll have them try a block of code, observe what it does before I talk about it, and we come up with their own definition together. All right, I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, well, thanks Annie. And a little known fact about Anne, she did join us in New Orleans this last year for ISTE, and I believe her favorite drink is the Slow Gin Fizz. Is that right?
You remember that? Yes, I did get to I did get to go to ISTE in New Orleans. It was a great opportunity. And yeah, to any chances that you get to go to the conferences with UB Tech, definitely recommend that as part of the TAP program.
She was great. So Annie and also Brian, who you'll hear from in a moment, also joined us in New Orleans. Great. So now to throw it over to Gina. Gina is actually one of our one of our Camp Aspire, our virtual camp teachers that joined us in the ambassador program. So Gina, I'll throw it over to you.
Thanks, Rusty. Hello, everyone. I'm Gina Quid, and I teach at Galileo STEM Academy. We are located in Eagle, Idaho. It's just this little suburb outside of Boise. I have taught 2nd grade and K-5 engineering here and love everything STEM, space science, and it's going to be exciting because if you are an elementary teacher, I can kind of give you that lens through the elementary classroom and how UB Tech can, it really can be integrated into all your subject areas. If you're teaching elementary, you're teaching ELA and math and science and social studies. And we truly have weaved UB Tech into all of our subjects. So next slide, we'll jump right in. We do use the UKIT beginner kit. Again, we are elementary, but please do not poo-poo or you know, call out those elementary students. They keep up with coding. They use the block coding. They do use the pose, and then they've also just recently started getting into the joystick, and that's been kind of fun for them too. So the way that I use these kits, you can see we use them whole class, and I'll have maybe 3, maximum 4. I wouldn't put more than 4 on a kit, but it really does promote collaboration. Just like you heard earlier, the kids they have one iPad plus the kit. They will have a challenge, and then from that they have to collaborate, and it's been amazing. I think like EC said, when you give it over to the kids, how they choose to collaborate and work together, and it really does promote those skills, those teamwork skills. So that it's collaborating in small groups. We do connect our builds constantly with the English language arts standards, math standards. You would be surprised how easy it is it's seamless really to bring math and ELA standards, writing prompts. You saw the golf build on Pi Day, catapults, measurement. It really is seamless to bring these kits into all subject areas. For our kiddos, it also helps develop problem solving skills. They're young, they're kindergarten through 5th grade, and it helps them become better communicators, listeners. It helps them to problem solve, which it also promotes self-efficacy. When they complete a build, they are so proud, they are so excited, and they all ask me if I can take pictures and send it to their families or videos, because they are so proud of themselves. Sometimes I think they even surprise themselves with what they can do with these kids. And we also use the engineering design process. I will give them a challenge, they will research it, they will plan, sketch a design, they will build it, test it, iterate it, and then they always get to share it out with their classmates. So even, down to K5 level, we still use the engineering design for everything we do. Okay, next slide. Some of our favorites this year, my kids loved the snake build, they loved the claw, and it was interesting how they could manipulate the claw and iterate to do different things. The wheels in the beginner kit, they come with the kit, but it's fun to see how the kids can take the parts and pieces in the kit, and they'll get the basic build, and then they will take it outside of the box, and they think of stuff that I never could ever have dreamed of. I mean, I will give them a challenge, and then they just take it and run with it. They have loved the fan, the golf club, and that's been great for measuring distance on several different math applications. We do use the Spark cards. We use them for writing prompts. So, I will put up a challenge, the Spark card challenge, they'll build it, they'll record their building, they'll share it out, and then we'll use that, the next day or so as a writing prompt. And so, like I said, it is just seamless how we can weave this in and out of subjects throughout the week or even a couple weeks. There's I attached, I don't know if that's going to work, my little video, but let's see if we can get that to play. But, it just kind of gives you an idea. These are 2nd graders, they're 7, and they get super excited when they can get this to code. Awesome. Thank you. And so on the next slide, some of the big lessons, this is my first year as a TAP ambassador, and some of the big things that I have taken away from this, and I think if you decide to use the UB Tech kits in your classroom, it really does go across all academic levels. I am amazed that my special ed kids, they are always, the first done, they always get that code correct. And I have 2 boys, my lowest students academically, they are the classroom teacher reps, because and I always tell the kids, go to them first, because they gravitate to this. They have so much success with the UB kits Like, I'm going to get emotional on this. I'm sorry about that. But it really is one area in their academic world that they are so successful every time, and they love it. And they ask me all the time, when are we doing UV Tech kits this week? When do we get to do the UV Tech? Because they know they are successful, and the kids look up to them and go to them for help. It really has helped our students learn to collaborate with COVID. It has, you know, it's different when they're back together and using their voice and being able to give and take. You know, that's a skill that these robots really do help. It really does, like I said, the self-efficacy. The students feel great about themselves when their codes run. It can be used across subject areas, and it really does develop a foundation for coding and computer science. And those were my big takeaways this year. Trying to get funding and projects for elementary can be tough. There's a lot for middle school and high school in computer science, and not a lot has trickled down yet into elementary. And so I so appreciate that the UKITs really do hit those kiddos K-5 and really do build a strong computer science, coding, robotics, engineering design process foundation. And I think that was the end of my presentation.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gina. And next up is Christy. And before Christy jumps in, just a big shout out to Gina and Christy, because they both just finished teaching. So they're right as they were jumping on, their students were just leaving. So we know how hard it is to do that mental transition. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time during this time. So.
Yeah, thanks, Rusty. Hey, I always just enjoy hearing all the different things, and then it gets me excited, like, oh, I need to try that too. So I'm Christy Schneider, and I teach in a rural school district in La Center, Washington. It's actually, if you think of Portland, Oregon, across the rivers, Vancouver, Washington, I'm north of there. I teach a variety of classes. I teach all 6th graders STEM rotation, and then I have 8th grade STEM, 7th and 8th grade STEM electives. And then I also teach 2 8th grade science classes. So I've been, actually I want to kind of say that the way I found UKITs, I have been a teacher that used the robotics for a long time, and I used the Legos NXT, and then I advanced to the EV3s. And I really was looking last year for some new products and robotics that would be supported. And that's how I found the UB Tech education and also the ambassador program. And that's when I applied to be an ambassador. So I was really glad because I've been really enjoying it. I chose the it's been a long day, sorry. UKIT Advanced kits to work with, and I mainly was choosing that for the 7th and 8th grade elective classes that I have. And then through last year and this year, I've been working on a project that is kind of animatronics. And I always had this idea, and I really wanted some materials that would support that. So to get kids kind of ready for this project, I had them initially build the robotic arm. That's one that's already a pre-designed project that's on the website, and the kids can build that with excellent building instructions. And one thing the kids love about it is that it's a 3-dimensional build, and they can look at all angles of the build, and they really have fun with that. And so that kind of got them into, you know, building with the kits, and then also working with the coding. From there, I went to this animatronics project. You can look in the pictures. Students were given a variety of animals that I found at resale stores, or they could bring in their own stuffed animal. And what they did, they would deconstruct the animal, do some research on the animal, and then it was up to them to build the kind of the bones of their chosen animal and build the structure. It seems like it would be easy to do. It's actually a lot harder. There's lots of reworking and rebuilding that is involved in this. Students, I had a requirement that at a minimum, they had to use 2 servo motors and they had to have one type of sensor. And so most kids would add even more servo motors. It was just kind of fun to see the process kids went through. You know, there's lots of trial and error, lots of some headaches too that went along with it. But one thing I wanted to share was there was one time I'm like, the kids had both front legs moving at the same time and back legs. And I'm like, you know, is that really going to work? They were trying to get a buffalo to move. And pretty soon we were all walking around the room on all fours trying to get the pattern, like, okay, which servo should be moving when and what's the pattern? And I'm sure anybody looking in through the windows would have like, what are they doing? But we had a lot of fun with it. The animatronics project built in, I could not find a video that did not have students in it and to show on this, but I had them build a background. They had to have a painted background scene. They had to have a story that they told with this. So it brought in a lot of the arts and science along with the robotics and coding. So we had a lot of fun with that project. We had a little bit of time at the end. I also let them build another model. There are some more pictures of some of the animals that children chose to do. I really like that the advanced kits, they actually have this dual screen where you can have, you have the block-based coding on the left side and you have the C++ on the right. And it's really, you could start with the code, but you can really work and advance to more advanced coding. You know, I have a real variety of students that come to me. Some have had no coding at all, and I want them to be successful. But then I've had other kids that have, you know, I have one student who had a lot of background, and basically I'm like, he needs to be teaching the class because, you know, he was really knowledgeable. So, you know, there's a variety. Don't shy away from using this because I really adopt the, you know, idea of, hey, I'm learning along with the students, and we all learn along the way, and we all have a lot of fun with it. Last year, when I worked with students, with the advanced kit, there's a circuit component to this where students can work with breadboards and they can plug in LEDs and different sensors and buttons and stuff like that. I did not do that this year, but because initially I thought I was going to have enough time to do the animatronics and then teach the circuits and we could tie it all in together. And I was just running out of time. I did not do it this year, but it is an option in the advanced kit that I have used before and I have enjoyed doing that. So yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't find a video that really showed the animatronics, again, like I said, without students in it to put on here. So anyway.
Thanks, Christy. I appreciate it. And also keep a lookout. We actually are just publishing a blog featuring some of Christy's perspective. So if you're on our mailing list as well, you'll be receiving that. Look for it on social as well. So great. So last but not least, turning it over to Brian. And side note about Brian also joined, or he actually didn't join me. He just happened to be in Chicago when we did a session on AI. And he built one of the coolest robots, vehicle robots I've actually ever seen anyone build with the UKITs. And he built it in about 45 minutes or so, and it was almost fully autonomous. It was impressive. So Brian has some very advanced engineering skills for sure. So yeah, as you can see, he's part cyborg, of course. But yeah, so Brian, I'll go ahead and throw it over to you.
This is what happens when the Photoshop teacher also teaches robotics, for all of those that are wondering where this one came from. So as he said, my name is Brian Wetzel. I teach in Centerburg, Ohio, which is literally the geographic center of the state. There's like a rock there that marks the exact center of the state. I've been in education for 18 years, with the past 11 being in that STEM category with robots and engineering and everything else involved with STEM. My big thing, and this is obviously where the robotics fit in the most, is just the idea of project-based learning. Giving my students open-ended questions, deliberately making them vague in some areas so that students can interpret the expectations and kind of follow their own follow their own interpretation. And what's funny is one student will interpret stuff one way, but then another student will kind of gravitate towards that and see what they're doing. I didn't know I could do it that way. And it just kind of organically kind of becomes everybody's each individual project, and they work with each other and they feed off of each other and they learn together and they learn from each other. And using the robots as kind of the backbone to that particular style in the classes that I use them with, it's just another piece to the puzzle that gets them involved and gets them learning in these ways. And also going along with that, just I think learning experiences are always more valuable when making something is involved, and specifically making something that the students are interested in, from making a poem to making a short story to making a video to obviously making a robot. Whenever they have something physical or something that they're proud of, I think that just propels them into the learning much more than your general typical lesson. So I like to get my students hands-on. I can't remember exactly which one, but I believe it was Annie who talked about that constructivist learning approach. And I really believe that many students form their own learning through this project, through all of these projects. So it's just a valuable learning experience. And with these robots, it's like I said, it appeals to their interests and they just go right at it. Move on. Okay. My thing with the UKIT Advanced, and that's what I've primarily worked with. I do have one UKIT immediate or intermediate that I have, and I got that one because I wanted a little bit of differentiation, both in terms of the students that might not pick up with U code right away. It might struggle a little bit more with block coding. So I also knowing that the possibility that my school, who also has a middle school attached to it, we're just one big 6 through 12 building. I thought there might be a chance that our middle school computer technology teacher, might want to use one of the intermediate kits for his classes. So I got one of those, but I've primarily worked with UKIT Advanced, and with that kit in particular, and a little bit less so, but just as much with the intermediate kit, the variety of options and technologies and sensors to explore with, to learn with, there's just so many different options for how they construct their builds and how they obtain their learning. And in this particular picture, you see a couple of students. One of my activities was we just threw all the sensors out there for each of them, and then they had to research, what that type of sensor or what that type of accessory would do, and then we talked about them each individually and what positives would come from having that particular type of sensor or feature integrated into a robot. Like, what would it use it for? So just the sheer variety of applications and technologies available is something I've always found value within the UKITs. So if we go to the next one. The other thing that I really like with the advance and kind of going along with that, it just gives students their own ability to meet the expectations, that they can carve their own path, right? They can follow their ideas until they either come to a successful point or they reach a hurdle that can't be overcome. We got to let them know that going back to the drawing board is always an option. It's not necessarily our preferred option to start all over, but sometimes we travel down a path that just doesn't work, and that's not necessarily means that you failed. That just means that, like Edison said, you found another way not to make a light bulb. We got to give them their own choices. And like I said, there's so many choices out there that with these UKIT Advanced and Intermediate and the beginner, there's so many different options for them to explore that eventually, when they keep tinkering, they're going to get to that point that they meet some form or some level of success. The pictures that you see right here was based off of one of the lessons that is available on UB Tech Education's website. It's called a Tide Above, where we do a whole bunch of background research and learning on the different technologies that are available to detect when flooding might occur. So it starts with a huge flood in Pennsylvania in the late 1890s, and how proper maintenance, routine maintenance, a little less stubbornness maybe, right, might have prevented a huge catastrophe within this city. And then so using that as a background, we look at how other technologies have been utilized to do some kind of task for that. And then the end project was to basically make their own tide gauge, where they're analyzing different water levels at different points of time and making decisions based off of the data that they get back. So with this particular student, I have it in kind of like 3 different forms, right? The first picture on the left, right, the water level is there, and you can't see it obviously, but the robot is detecting exactly how high the water is, right, or how far away it is from a quote unquote danger point. So everything's normal at this point. You don't necessarily see anything, right, alarming. But then when you go to the second picture, right, with the bucket that you see, I raised the water level a little bit, and the eyes at the top are glowing. The picture looks weird, but they should be glowing yellow as like a warning, because it's not necessarily danger, it's not necessarily imminent, but hey, this is something we want to keep an eye on. And then in the third picture, with the water level continuing to rise, well, then the lights turn to red, which is our indicator of, hey, there is danger. And there was also buzzing that's coming from the Explore board that's controlling everything. So it's buzzing all over the place. The eyes rotating, they're going red, right? So you get that clear idea that, hey, we need to do something, right, to get this situation remedied or to prepare for a worst case scenario. So once again, as many of the teachers have said before, the ambassador said before me, it's so much iteration in terms of getting the lights to respond at certain points of time, right? We even tested it when the water level goes back down. Do the lights go off? Do they go up and down that scale of danger? Because once again, in the warning, it might continue to go up. It might just drop back down. So it was a quick visual, audio, hands-on project that allowed them to research a topic that a lot of people don't realize how dangerous it can be in the example of flooding. And when we looked at a lot of different examples of hurricanes and different weather phenomenons that have been produced flooding in different areas. So, like I said, this was their particular robot to gauge that, right? And all of them very different. So, if we can go on. The rest of my 4 slides, and I'll go over these fairly quickly, because the bad thing about going last is that everybody has said what you're going to say. I tackled my slides with the 4 C's of 21st century learning, and how the UKITs address those. All right, and this is my creativity slide. I mean, you can see the 5 different robots there that range from one that followed one of the 38 builds that are available with the UKIT Advanced, right? That standing robot, 100% to the design. Okay, the little truck-looking thing that's in the same slide as robot, it was based on a build, right? But the students modified it, right, a little bit. They went a little bit beyond. All right, modified, just iterating that particular design to serve a particular purpose. I think for that one, it was just literally adding that truck bed on the back of it, right, to the tank that you can see there on the left that's holding a meter stick. This was just an interesting lesson in and of itself, and one of my favorites, simply because believe it or not, this was a lesson on manufacturing and how robots can aid in manufacturing environments. It turned into BattleBots almost. Not that they were trying to destroy each other per se, but they were trying to leverage and get an advantage in some way, shape, or form. And at first, I'm like, this is not what I wanted to do. But then, as I saw what was happening, where one kid would, or one group of kids would lose the battle per se, or gain a disadvantage, they would pick up their robot, take it back to their station, and reiterate it in order to beat the competition, right? And I saw so many different things just, to one up the other person, and theoretically, air quotes, jump right back into the ring, right, with their new and improved version. And like I said, once I kind of saw this going this way, right, and saw how they were just taking over the lesson, it was fun to just sit back and watch that creativity come out and try to beat the competition. Next. All right, we move on to collaboration. I agree with, I believe it was, I can't remember. I'm wanting to say it was Gina, but I might be wrong. That said, 2 or 3 people working on it is fine, right? 4, depending on the students. Any more than 4, I think someone's going to lose an opportunity there, right? But no matter how many kids you're putting together within that scope, they are working together. They're working towards a common goal, right? They are following instructions or bouncing ideas off of each other, right, to ultimately get done what needs to get done. And working together is definitely something that should be promoted in any industry, but definitely within the realm of computer science and robotics, they're going to be working with partners in some way, shape, or form. They're going to be passing off designs. They're going to be communicating back and forth, right? So, they have to build those skills to work together. Communication, all right? And I have a quick video right here, very similar to what another one mentioned. These 2 students built in tandem with each other, in parallel with each other, actually. That one made the gate and another one made the car. And, once they were kind of, the programs were initiated, right, the car would drive forward until there was an object blocking it, which in that case turned out to be the gate, right? The gate would stay shut until something was in front of it, in which it would raise up accordingly, giving it time to pass through. So they had to work together and communicate with each other about how their technologies worked and how it was arranged and how it was structured so that, you know, these robots could perform what we think of as a common everyday task that goes on in our society. And then finally, we have critical thinking. Okay, this has been a fun project of late that I've been working a lot with the grayscale sensor, and it is one of the most fun, fascinating, and frustrating, nitpicky sensors out there because it's so attentive to detail. But what it's able to do is differentiate between lights and darks, right, in an effort to follow lines throughout a facility or throughout an area. So this one was designed just a short little track, right, so that it would be able to follow that line, right, make turns right and left as necessary, right, to stay on that line. And once again, right, it takes several iterations for our students to be able to get to this particular point. And kind of one of my mantras that I try to pass on to my students is that failure only occurs in the absence of redesign, right? If we are, just because we didn't get the expected result doesn't mean that it's a quote unquote failure and we should stop everything. That means that we look at what was right, we look at what was wrong, and go back to the drawing board per se and redesign to the point that we get closer and closer to our goal. The bigger project with this one going on now is I actually have an obstacle course for them, and ideally the robot will drive itself around an obstacle course, which the obstacles are fairly simple, but once again, there's kind of like a double turn in there. There's a small ramp, and then there's also a wall that breaks up the black line that it's ideally following. So, it has to work its way around the wall almost in a hard-coded or somewhat, some way, getting itself back to the line to finish out the rest of the course. So, once again, as I said before, it's honestly, if they get to that finish line, that's great and all, but it's when we get to the end of this, when they've had time to develop a program and they're all on the right track, it's time to reveal the curtain. It's like, it's about our process. It's about what did we notice? What did we take from our test? What did we, what do we need to do in order to follow a line or go faster down the line, or whatever the case may be? It gets them thinking in different ways to get that, success criteria. So the robots within the UKITs, like I said, illustrate these 4 ideas, these 4 skills that more and more employers are expecting. And I, for one, hate the phrase 21st century skills because all of our students were born in the 21st century at this point. It's just the skills that they need. So these robots and the UKITs, right, instill these values, instill these skills in ways that the students just don't even realize until you, like I said, draw back that curtain a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. That was a great ending as well. I hadn't thought about it, but yeah, all students now are going to be born in the 21st century. That that makes me feel, a little old, I guess.
Sorry, it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Well, thanks to everyone for joining. If you guys have any questions for any of our TAP ambassadors, feel free to throw them into the chat window. While we're going to move on to the next slide, but yeah, feel free to any final thoughts, throw them in there. If you want to connect with any of our ambassadors outside of this webinar, please connect with us. We're more than happy to send you a follow-up or get you guys connected. Excellent, great. So As we mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, this is actually our last webinar of the season. We are going to take a break from presenting to pursue some other things, including our different conference schedules. But we will start back up in August. We have a really fun one. Our topic is I have robotics kits. Now what? So kind of onboarding, getting educators started, in line with the start of the school year. So this will be a fun one. We're going to, bring in some of our other, TAP teachers as well. So to hear from different strategies to set up a successful program. Excellent. So doesn't look like we have any questions coming in, which is great. It means you guys covered everything. So huge thank you to all of you guys for taking the time to present. We love hearing your perspectives. We love hearing, your opinions and the images of the different projects you're doing. So thank you guys so much. We love it. Continue to do the great work and let us know how we can support.
All right. Thanks you all for joining, and we will see you again in August. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.